Hey guys, you're watching Team APS, and in today's video I'm going to share a few ideas that I have for decks that could be really fun to play in the upcoming format. I'm not including decks that I think will be like super top tier. You guys obviously know what those 3-4 decks are going to be. So these are just decks that'll be interesting picks, either because, you know, the competition has been lowered, or just because they maybe got stuck back on the ban list, or I just think they're cool. So let's get started. First is Zing. So if you're like, you know, a hype beast and you think that this is going to be a cool deck, then props to you. I do think it's really cool. I really do think it's a neat deck, but I don't necessarily know that it will be able to have an incredible matchup against things like Cosmos or Mad Specters. But the main benefit in Zing is, of course, that they are able to make synchro monsters and float, and the synchro monsters they make get buffs, and so they actually tend to not have a terribly hard time dealing with things like Dark Destroyer, things like Forerunner, and they can float enough to sort of keep up with Mad Specters-ish. So I agree with it. Now, the main thing that a lot of people like is that you can use Xiaofeng, which is like, you know, super cool. If you summon Xiaofeng with like Chiwen, then light monsters can't use their effects, if I'm saying that correctly, I think. So very cool to be able to make Xiaofeng and basically shut out a deck like Cosmos, or shut out a deck like Mad Specters because they're all wind, they wouldn't be able to search. Things like that are very useful. So yeah, the Zings definitely have a place in this upcoming meta, I guess. What's also cool is that the floating ability isn't so hampered because we don't, like, cards like Winda aren't going to be appearing as much, and you won't really see as many like Trishulas. So you like to get a lot of time to kind of just search with Zings, and you can even run floodgates in them rather easily. Like Iron Wall works very well and actually stops your Chiwen from getting banished, and it doesn't hurt your deck in any other way. And you can main deck like Mistake and even lose a turn in Zing, which I've actually seen work pretty well. So definitely a cool deck, and that's number one. Next is Mermails. Neptibus is coming. So what's really cool about this is that, you know, Mermails will finally be moving really fast. Neptibus effectively replaces GX Undine in a more sort of cohesive way, a way that works a little bit better with the deck. You're not forced to run dead controllers and kind of have to worry about that a little bit. Neptibus is cool, interacts well with Diva. You can even use it like 1-for-1 if you want to. So very cool little interactions that it's got. It really makes the Mermail deck quite fast and quite powerful. You can pop things really quickly, you can search things really quickly. I've seen a handful of different ways to OTK with the card. What's cool about Mermails too, just in general, is that they're getting a buff from Neptibus, but they also got a nice little buff with Norden. Norden works pretty well in the deck with 2 Dragoons now. You can, you know, instant fusion, get Norden, get Dragoons, overlay into any of your rank 4 water monsters like Bahamut Shark, Stylodon or Arc, what have you. And when you use their effects by detaching Dragoons still get this effect, and it doesn't get banished and all that stuff. It's a great time. So I do think Mermails will be fast and really effective against the upcoming meta. And also a personal thing that I like about the deck, because I've kind of been using it, is that it has a pretty decent Cosmos matchup. I'm not saying it's like in their favor, but you know, believe it or not, things like Abyss Gaios actually do pretty well against Cosmos. It's kind of just stop them from attacking, and there's not a whole lot they can do about it most of the time. So you know, there's that. But yeah, I think Mermails will definitely be a pretty good pick for the upcoming meta, and it's pretty expensive already, so maybe pick it up now before it gets even more expensive, I don't know. Next is Aero Mage. So unfortunately, Aero Mage aren't really getting like a whole lot more support. It seems that's really weird, but I do like the deck. It's a little bit more of a slow rolly grindy deck, but you know, it's actually a really cool thing. Like, we've needed a plant deck that's not just like trying to OTK you as fast as possible. So Aero Mage is cool if you kind of like to slow down the pace, grind out your opponent, and you can use cards that sort of supplement this strategy. Things like Cactus Bouncer are extremely useful, and also the deck can use lose a turn very effectively, lose 1 turn. And so yeah, I really like it. I think that, of course, it kind of has the weakness of being a bit slow, so it can't necessarily gain a lot of advantage early on, but it's a lot of fun. I've actually really enjoyed using the deck. Humid Winds and Arid Winds are nice, and you can use like Magic Planter and things. As I said, this isn't meant to be like a, oh, this is definitely going to be top tier. It's just more of like a really fun deck that, now that, you know, Necroz and Shaddoll and stuff are like out of the picture, you guys could do something with this deck. So it's worth trying out. Next is Spellbooks, my personal favorite. I love Spellbooks a lot. Fate's at 3 now. I actually, little fun fact, I don't think that 3 Fate's gonna be like a standard in most Spellbook decks. I actually think that most people will just run 2, because 3 can get a little cloggy. You can only use it once per turn, and it's pretty easy to recycle. But, I digress. The point is, Spellbooks are actually very cool. Neat part about Spellbook of Fate is that it does very well against Pendulum Scales and Cosmos, more or less. So the cool thing about it is that Spellbook of Fate does not target the third effect. None of the effects do, but the third effect is mostly what I think people will be looking at. The effect that, you banish 3 Spellbook cards from your graveyard and you banish a card on the field. The card that you banish in the field is not targeted when Spellbook of Fate activates. So no matter what happens, when Fate resolves, it's going to banish a card. What this means is that if you are going to you're trying to banish their, let's say, Trish, and they tribute it for an econ and try to take something, you're still going to banish a card when Fate resolves. You'll always banish something. And that's neat because that gets rid of Cosmo Dark Destroyer and Cosmo Forerunner very easily. Stuff that can't be targeted, like Forerunner, is still vulnerable to this. Stuff that can't be destroyed, like Dark Destroyer, is still vulnerable to this. You can get rid of both of them, and it banishes them so that they aren't able to float with their effects. Very, very, very useful. Pretty cool. And you can even hit Pendulum Scales with it, so that's kind of nice. When you banish a Pendulum Scale, like anything that's on either side, it won't go to the extra deck because it gets banished, and even if they like chain Wavering Eyes, which is going to become pretty common, I think, but even if they chain Wavering Eyes, it's okay because you're going to banish something, so it won't be a complete loss. So yeah, I think that Spellbooks are going to be cool. I don't think it'll be top tier. I still think it's got kind of some flaws, but it's a good, cool one to look into if you like searching your deck a lot. So yeah, Spellbooks. Next is Geargia. I've already seen like Giano's prices go up. So Geargia's neat because Geargia Gear went to 3. Is it going to be top tier? But it's okay because it does still do what it does pretty well. It's not dumb. It's a rank 4, rank 3 kind of spam, recycle, spam, recycle, spam, recycle, search, spam, recycle type of deck. And if you're into that sort of thing, then it's pretty cool. But just don't, be surprised if it kind of gets outsped by things. And with Exiton gone, that's kind of like one more rank 4 Xyz thing gone. But I mean, the deck does just fine. Gear against searches, you can do a lot of fun stuff. I really like the deck, so don't, sleep on it. It's just another fun machine deck for the people who liked it. So I can't vouch for it. I don't play it very much myself, but I just know it's going to be a fun little choice to pick. Next is Infernoid. So some people are very on the fence about this deck because they always kind of claim it's it's very luck based. You get a good reasoning, you win. If you don't, you lose. But the deck's fairly consistent now. I mean, it's gotten better at least. Decatron helps. Things like that. When the deck's going off, it works extremely well. Anunku is good. All DVD is good. All of them are really great. They can chain and banish stuff from the grave is really useful. And once the deck does get the reasoning mill, it's got enough steam to pretty much out pressure other decks. So it's something that I would look into using. If you're kind of a high risk, high reward player, that might really suit your style very well too. So definitely Infernoids. Good deck. I think one of the top contenders. I mean, it won an event, so it's got to be decent, right? And my last one's Fluffles. So I know and some of these, I know you guys really think you've mentioned all these decks in videos before. Why are you mentioning them again? I just mentioned them because it's a ban list, so it's relevant. But Fluffles are really cool because they keep getting more support. Them and Super Heavy Samurai. Why? Because prominent characters in the Arc 5 anime use them, so there's gonna be a lot of support. But Fluffles just keep getting more stuff. I honestly don't even know anything about how that deck works, so it's probably bad of me to be sitting here recommending it to people. I don't even know the first thing about the deck. I just know that every time I see a new set, I see another Frightfur coming out, or another Fluffle coming out, and I'm just there's no way this can be bad. Not to mention, I've seen a couple of duels online, when I watched DN, where Fluffle players just beat Necroz players or whatever. This is last format obviously, but they just beat meta decks just simply by taking them off guard. It's something I say about things like desk bots and decks like that. It's just these decks that can really just come in and do their strategy really fast and just steal games and sets. And so if you don't know what they're doing, you don't know how to face them, then it's that much harder to win. But Fluffles is actually really consistent. they've got a lot of cards that search and plus, so making the fusions isn't hard, as I've seen when I played against them. So Fluffles is definitely another really cool pick. And that concludes the ones that I've got. I mean, there are loads of others, and you know, that's all what the comment section's for. What are going to be some fun decks to play? Not necessarily tier 1 decks, but like viable tier 2 decks. I mean, you know, I'm a big Medolce fan. You know, there's stuff like Bujins, that dumb athlete deck. Red Eyes is like cool. There's just like a lot of little things. We all know like Performat, Pal, Mage, whatever, and Monarchs and Mad Specters and Cosmos. We know they're going to be the top tier. You don't have to tell us anymore. So I thought this would be a really fun way to kind of just talk about other decks that'll still be viable and neat to run kind of in the tier 2 sector. So leave your thoughts in the comments. What other decks would be really good? What did I miss? And what do you think? You know, what do you think's going to be good and why? That's the video. If you'd like to win a box of Dimension of Chaos, that's provided by TCG Player, my channel's sponsor, you can check out the description of this video for a way to enter that contest. It's going on this entire month. I'm giving away a first edition booster box, Dimension of Chaos. And if you want to win, you can enter that, and you can get extra entries by like liking my Facebook page, following me on Twitter, little things like that. So hope you liked the video. That's all for today, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye, guys.